Yeah, so I suppose two things. The defined benefit scheme, there's a reason why they wrapped that up in the early 80s. It costs a fortune. Now, I mean, we can all ask for Porsches with our pay rises every year, and that's pretty much what Mark's just done with a defined benefit scheme, throwing it out there saying, hey, look, let's go get a defined benefit scheme. How? How are you going to pay for that? That is millions and millions and millions of dollars. Like we see it through the D&D now when guys go out on a defined benefit scheme, which we already have, if they're hurt, and already we're seeing the liability of that growing. Add 6,500 people, or 3,500 perms to that, the government are going to say, are you kidding? I mean, let's be real about in this election about what we can promise and what we can deliver. Let's not talk about Porsches. Now, secondly, op support. You know, this may be news to some of you. Greg Mullins wanted to kill the OS3A, 2A straight away. Then he offered up a year, then he offered up 2 years. Now, in the end, we grandfathered that, or however you want to call it, until those guys move out of that. Now, that was the position that the union was put in, and we dealt with it. Now, that wasn't a decision made by this state committee, as Mark would have you say. That was a majority of the members that voted on that. Now, they could have said no, but they said yes. So, thank you.
Right, thanks. Question number 2, MFR. Given the general membership policy binding the union's leadership to a 12.5% increase in pay before we accept the increased level of work, skills and responsibility, will you be settling for 12.5% over and above whatever the employer offers the rest of the public service, or 12.5% over 3 years?
Look, I like the question. I think it's sort of a little bit factually incorrect. It doesn't bind just the leadership, it binds our union. So anyone that's a member is bound by that decision, as is every decision that we make. So let's be clear. Every general meeting we have, that you now have that as the way you go forward. So all of us here, myself, Mark, Pete, we're all bound by that decision. Now, I know that decision quite well because I drafted half of it with Comrade Keevers here from the Northwest Sub-Branch. Now, when we were on the sub-branch executive together, we saw this, and when that is going to be a problem for us coming down the future. Now, I don't think I've changed my position on this, and I'll be up front. 12.5% was a block. It made us look good. Simple as that. It was a politically defendable position to say, look, we'll do it for money. We want it for training, and we want the health services. But I think the more we think about this, and you're seeing the stuff coming out of Melbourne, and you know, I'll be releasing a couple of reports about that they're doing in Melbourne, where we're seeing spikes in PTSD, we're seeing spikes in mental health issues around this. And I've got some really big concerns about what that's going to do to the membership. Now, I've heard the other side of the story where we go, look, we're here, aren't you here to help the community? Yep, absolutely we are. Every single one of us is here to help the community. That's one part of that conversation. The other part of that conversation is, do you help the community if you become a mess down the track? Another part of that conversation is, what do we get out of it? Because we certainly don't sell our labour for free. We don't do more for less. You know, a union is here to do more for more. So as we're sitting here going, yep, sure, we'd help the lady across the road if she knocks on the door, and I've heard, you know, management run out these lines. So look, general meeting decision is 12.5%. From what I hear, you know, we'll be coming knocking on the union's door very, very shortly with some kind of offer, but I can tell you what, I don't think it's going to be 12.5%. And look, I've got the general meeting decision behind it, but my personal position, I think I'll be saying no.
I agree with Leighton on some points of that, in the sense that I think that 12.5% was an opportunity to say, hey, we're not going to do it. But I think something has to happen since then. There was a union subcommittee that I was on about medical first response, and we came up with some options and some plans to have you know, on the shelf if something happened. But then what happened? Nothing's happened since then. And in a 5-year interim, we need to come up with a plan, and we need to consult with the members to work out what that plan is. I don't claim to know what the members want on this. But I think we need to do a better job at consulting with them to say, hey, when this gets dumped on us, or if this gets dumped on us, what is our plan? Because coming up with a plan when it happens is a big, big risk. And just saying, no, we're not going to do it, unless you give us 12%, is a big risk. I think we need to have a far more comprehensive plan that involves more consultation, as I've talked, it's a key part of my platform, more consultation with the members. And I think this would be an amazing opportunity to use some online technology, some online voting to see what the majority of people want. I was at that meeting for the 12.5%. There were less than 200 people there. Now, I think if you want to get proper representation, we need to hear from the affected members, not all members, because it just doesn't really affect retained members at this stage. But 3,500 members need to, be heard on what their position is. Now, if it's a strong no, then it's a strong no. But we can go back and push back onto the department and say, hey, it wasn't a meeting 5 years ago where 200 members said this. It was, here is the information from all of our collective, and the majority say no. So I think that's really important. The other things we need to, which were discussed in the subcommittee, were if, it does get pushed on us, there are some definite things that we're not going to do. And one of them is, setting up a committee so that the scope doesn't creep. So, you start off doing, category 1A, and the next thing you know, you're going to drug overdoses and things like that. That needs to be really, really well managed. And that we need to have a plan in the union executive. Is that Tim? You need to have a plan in the union executive to react to that. We can't just do it on the fly.
All I heard there was we need to go and engage with you guys and talk about it. Yep, I don't totally disagree with what Mark just said, but we did that 5 years ago. We've had this conversation for the last 5 years, and we had it the 5 years before that. Now, I don't think the position's changed. Like, I've been travelling the state for the last year, and every time I walk into a meeting, they go, where's MFR? We don't want to do it. Now, there's a group of people out there that would like to do it. Now, I get that. I think we need to address those concerns, but I don't think we need to run an online poll to sit there and say that most people don't want to do that, because they get it. They know where it's going to go, and they know what it's going to do to them. And they know they're not going to get the training. They know they're not going to get the mental health support services. And they know they're not going to get the pay rise that they're after for it. So I think, again, we're sitting over here handing over rescue and fire jobs, which is our core role, and we want to go and take on something new and weird. Yeah, look, I'm at that point where I think we should be against this, and we should be telling them why, and we should be moving more into our core role. Now, very quickly on the other stuff that Mark said, and I acknowledge that we're happy that we invited you onto that committee. The first recommendation out of that subcommittee was to oppose MFR. And that's what we should be doing. The rest is white noise.
And I think probably we'll talk about, I agree that the recommendations of the subcommittee were opposed, but I still think there needs to be work, and we need to be prepared if that is forced upon us, because it's not as if, we have the only choice in this. If the department decides to force MFR upon us, we need to be far better prepared than it appears to be. And going out and talking to people at fire stations is great. It's a new experience for Leighton. He's only been doing it for the last 6 months, and that might be something to do with the election coming up. But going out and talking to people is one thing, but you need to be a little bit more objective about that. You can't just say, hey, the vibe is we don't want it. That's what a poll does. A poll gives you some objective information, and then you can communicate that out to your members and says, this is where we stand. We've got some questions. Are there some different things, are there some different models we can look at? Definitely. But you just wandering around a fire station and saying the vibe is we're against it isn't good, competent, engaged leadership. I think we need to be far more objective about it, and we need to communicate what those outcomes are to the masses.
Okay, question number 3. Substantial promotion from LF to SO and LSO to Inspector. In light of the disastrous decision to allow the employer to act up LFs and LSOs for years, if not permanently, without substantive promotion for these union members, and the fact that overall the SO numbers are down over the last 5 years by over 120, while senior executive has increased from 10 to 25 in the last 2 years, will you commit to making substantive promotion to these positions after 2 years of acting up a foundation claim for your next wage round?
I think the answer to that is yes. I think we need to lock something in, that says that you're not going to be an LF or an LSO forever. How we do that we need to work out. But I think it's really, really damaging to fireys to be sitting around going, shit, I made it to leading fire, but I don't know what happens next. And I think that ties back to my earlier point around alternative duties. We need to have, the department needs to have a far more structured career plan for all firefighters, and I think the union can push harder on them to make that happen. So that's the first part of that. The second part of that is, this is not a surprise. If anybody that discussed the 2015 award said, give me the detail on these promotions, and they said, don't worry about the detail, trust us. We'll make sure no one gets screwed over. Now, if you happen to be getting screwed over now, bad luck, because there was no detail in the first award, and again, the award process was, and it was, as I said at the last election, it was an award that was decided by a very, very small amount of people, and then there was a 6-week roadshow after the decision was made and the deal was ratified with the Department of Treasury to sell that award. Now, that's not the way I see awards should be developed. Awards should be developed with the consultation in front of the approval from Treasury and the Department, so that then we include discussion, we have open discussion. It was amazing to see that award change in the 1 week before it went to the vote, just because some operational support people put some good ideas forward, and we're going to change that. That all should happen in the year before the award, not in the 1 week before the award and then 6 weeks of selling it. But we asked questions at the time. We said, we're worried about career prospects for leading fireys and LSOs, and we were told by the union leadership, don't worry, trust us, we won't allow that to happen. And then 3 years down the track, or 4 years down the track, that's exactly what's happened. People have got no prospects for promotion. Yeah, you're going to be a leading firey forever. All right? And the same thing with LSOs. So that's no surprise, and we've got to do better than that.
So I suppose a few facts on this. Currently, there are 685 LSOs and SOs in total. 685. 117 leading firefighters. Roughly, let's talk about 800. There's a pool of 800 people. Prior to the 2015 award, there were 700 to 720 SOs and only 40 LFs. So we're now 50 positions up above senior fire that we didn't have before. So numbers have gone up, not down. The LF wasn't a permanent rank, and now it is. And some people like it, some people don't. And that's fair enough. But again, we're happy to go through and talk about these things and change things where we can. Now, funnily enough, Mark talks about consultation and the award round. Now, Mark's part of the City Sub-Branch Executive. Now, he's part of the process of going out and talking to people about the award and how, and explaining it to members. Now, to be honest with you, I don't think the City Sub-Branch held one of those meetings around the award. So, it's not necessarily, he's part of the system. Now, he may not know what to do about that, although we did run a training course late last year, which he turned up to. We booked all the training stuff. We invited all the sub-branch executive. They were supposed to plan their calendar. The award was coming up, get out and speak to their members. Now, some sub-branches did that, some didn't. Moving forward, I suppose, and one thing Mark also doesn't understand. You can sit out there and line up the award 2 years before it 2 years before it expires. But you cannot deal with the department until 16 weeks out from the expiry of it. It's now legislation again. We've got to get back to changing the rules that are confining workers and doing that. So you can't go and negotiate with the department, outside of 16 weeks. So it's hard to go and have all this great policy about what we're going to do and where we're going to go, and you go to the department and they go, we don't want to do any of that. All starts 4 months out. So we are in a constrained time frame at the moment. But again, that's why we've got to change the rules. Thank you.
It'd be great if I was the problem for all the union woes, wouldn't it? Because I turned up to one executive training day where Leighton's been working at it for 9 years and achieved nothing. I definitely. Well, Jim, you don't have to shake your head, mate. He said that it's my fault that we didn't achieve anything. I mean, I agree. There has been a real lack of management of sub-branches across the board. Now, there are some good sub-branch secretaries out there, but it shouldn't be just up to them. We have paid union officials that should be able to help those sub-branch secretaries organise meetings, communicate with their members, those sorts of things. So, you know, when I'm secretary, one of the first things I'm going to do is not necessarily talk about cutting dues. Let's just keep our dues the same and let's spend them a little bit more wisely. Let's get staff out there to help engage with members. Let's get some staff out there that can write social media. Let's get staff out there that will organise meetings and then take elected officials along to those meetings. You know, it doesn't make sense to cut your income when you're still not doing the best job you can do. I would say if you've got more money, spend it wisely, provide better value to the members, not just a pay cut.
Yeah, look, I agree with somewhat what Mark said there, but let's be honest here, the state committee officials get paid to organise. Okay, so they get 5,000 Ks, and some more than that. The country gets about 20, I think Retain get 20,000 Ks worth of organising Ks. So if you haven't seen your sub-branch secretary, ask him why. It's as simple as that. Now, we go and put paid organisers on. Each paid organiser roughly on cost about 150 grand a year. At the moment, our state committee costs us about $130,000 a year. That's 16 people, not including myself. So we go put on one organiser, but then what are the elected officials doing? I mean, they're paid to go and do that job. So really what you're saying is, well, we don't need a state committee, let's go and have paid organisers. Now that's an interesting model, because that's the model every other union basically in the country is running. Now their density is at 10%. Ours is at 99.97%. So we're doing something right. Now, I've done nothing in the last 9 years. How was that 24-hour shift yesterday?
Can I just ask a really quick question? Just for candidates, you're doing a really good job, thank you very much, but please remember to play the game, not the lose. Okay, we don't want to get bogged down in the personality clash.
Oh, yeah, we do. Bring it on. Bring it on.
No, point taken, Nick, thank you.
All right, number 4, wage increase. Given the last 3 wage rounds have delivered the lowest increases in wages for New South Wales firefighters in nearly 25 years, and along with the major changes in conditions like mandatory fitness requirements and reduced promotion opportunities, reduced retainers and lost compensation for sick and injured firefighters, in addition to the fact that New South Wales is sitting on a surplus budget of over $2 billion following the privatisation of electricity, what percentage increase in wage will you be seeking